So Dragon Quest III Remake drops today. Well, actually, as of recording this, it's the 21st of October, but I kind of want to get ahead of the curve, so I'm making a video today. But with that being said, if you're a newcomer to the Dragon Quest franchise, this is the video for you. Today, I'm only talking about the combat in Dragon Quest. This kind of applies to all Dragon Quest games. So if you are a newcomer to the series, I want to give you a short and sweet but comprehensive guide on how to quest those dragons and whatnot. I'm not going to ramble an intro that's going to make you want to spam that skip button like it's classic cookie clicker. I just want to get to the point here. I really just want to cover the basics, so if you are new to all turn-based RPGs, you're not running around like a liquid metal slime Roomba, not knowing what the your best bets are. So let's get a mosey on. I'm going to be going off the original game a bit for this because the new one isn't out yet, but I'm assuming that most of this is going to translate fairly well. Plus, it does apply to pretty much every Dragon Quest game anyway. So you're going to know off the bat that your skill set's going to be based off the personality test that you did at the start. I'm not going to tell you how to get the best stats in this video, plus I want your first playthrough to be kind of organic, and it'd take forever to get through them all. So I'm going to link a guide below if you really want to know. But you can choose your party. So let's talk vocations. I'm going to keep this simple. You're going to have your hero and 3 other party members to support you. You can make a bunch of these at Patty's party pub thing. How do I not remember the name of this? Patty's party planner. You can choose a bunch of vocations and party members at Patty's place and switch them out as you go. You have your hero, who's a good all-rounder. You'll have your sword and other weapons like spears or whips. You can heal yourself or attack through melee or offensive spells. One vocation you can have on your team is a priest. Priest is a healer. Will cast helpful support spells like heal. Heal also becomes very powerful as you level up. Priest can also learn spells like sap, which lowers the enemy's defense, and other spells that buff you and your party members and even resurrect you if you die. Mages. Mages attack through offensive spells. These spells usually use the elements, so Frizz is fire, Crack is ice, Whoosh is wind, Zap is electricity, and so on and so forth. They usually have a wand or a knife. They can also cast spells that boost your defense, like Kabuff. Martial artists. These are full melee attackers and they usually use staves, or fisticuffs. Merchants. Merchants can get you more gold from battles for buying weapons and armor. They can also help you find more treasure when you're out and about. They have access to special armor and weapons too, like abacuses. Abacuses? Abacusi?
Excuse me. I need your help. You need to kill me.
Abacuses look class, okay? Merchants are generally average across the board though. Thieves can steal good items from enemies. They generally equip knives. They have amazing agility, which helps them strike first in the battle. Generally medium in everything across the board, quite like the merchant. Warriors have great attack and defense. Not much support though, and they're really slow. They'll probably attack last in the battle, but they're a really solid all-rounder and you can't really go wrong with them in your party. And lastly, gadabouts. They're gobshites, and we love them. But basically, if it's your first run, I wouldn't really recommend having a gadabout in your party. I don't want to get into spoiler territory here, but they can be quite useful later on in the game. In early stages of the game, they're basically a wasted space in your party, but there is more than meets the eye. I know that there is going to be added vocations in the remake, but I'm assuming here that they're not going to be available until later in the game, or that they'll be unlockable vocations. I could be wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna just leave it at that. Those are your basic vocations that you can choose from. I might make a follow-up video after the remake comes out, or someone else will do it better than me, probably. I'm just going for surface level knowledge here, so you're not absorbing like 40 years of lore in one go. So let's talk about weapons and equipment real quick. A lot of this comes down to personal preference, I have to say. But if it's your first run, I would prioritize buying good defense items over good weapons. A good weapon isn't worth much if you're going to die before you can land the final blow. When shopping, it'll show what kind of weapons and equipment can be equipped by each member of your party. The most important thing to keep in mind here is that some weapons can't be equipped by certain vocations and vice versa. Different vocations can only equip certain things. And manage your money. Sometimes you're just going to have to prioritize or keep grinding until you have enough money for everything you want to get. Now we're over the essentials, let's talk about combat at last. Let's talk about tactics. There's an option to let your party members fight for themselves, and this can be really useful when grinding. I wouldn't recommend it for a boss though. You can select fight styles for each of your party members, and they usually consist of the following. Show no mercy. They'll attack full throttle, no holding back. Focus on healing. They'll prioritize keeping you and your party members in fighting condition, using buffs and heal spells. Fight wisely. They'll go on the offense, but stop to use heals and buffs if someone needs help. Mix it up. Never let them guess your next move. Don't use magic. This is good for navigating dungeons so you're not using up your MP before a boss battle. Sometimes there'll also be a defend option, which can be handy to prevent your party members from losing too much HP. And of course, if you choose to follow orders, you decide what they do. I'm also assuming that in the remake, they're going to be adding a pet power or tension function. This usually means a build-up of power that enables the user to use special abilities or spell that deal more damage or have higher buffs. But at last, we're going to go into my top tips for combat in Dragon Quest. Rule 1 of Dragon Quest Fight Club. Wait. Rule 2 of Dragon Quest Fight Club. Know your enemy. Different enemies are going to have different sensitivities to different spells and abilities. Pay attention to what spells they have sensitivities to and see if they might be more sensitive to fire spells or maybe they're immune to sleep spells. For bosses, it's a really good idea to keep a close eye on this. It's good so you can come up with the perfect strategy. Buff your party. Defense spells like buff or magic resistant spells like magic barrier and a load of other spells and abilities are really good for protecting your party against certain spells and attacks. Your enemy breathes fire? Use a breath resistant spell. You get the gist. Pay attention to your fighting order. If you know your priest isn't going to catch heal until after your enemy attacks, it might be wise to defend this round if you're low on health. Or have a faster party member use a healing spell or a healing item. Which brings me to number 5, manage your inventory. It's always wise to keep healing items, in Dragon Quest are called medicinal herbs, in everyone's inventory, along with other items like antidotal herbs that cure poison or moonwort bulbs that cure paralysis. Plan out your inventory so you are prepared. Another thing worth mentioning is accessories. Some accessories can add buffs as well as defense. Some increase your agility. Some can help protect you against curses or poison or paralysis. These are good to keep an eye on if you end up with a boss that can cast a lot of curses or poison you a lot. Some enemies can even make you dance non-stop. You're going to want to wait off that. Again, there's going to be descriptions clear as day for any of these items when they appear in a shop or in a crafting recipe. I won't waste time going into the details of every single one, because God knows there's going to be many wiki pages full of that. Don't rush, and know your grinding spots. You may feel the urge to land as many attacks as quickly as possible to get your bosses down or your enemies down ASAP, but you can burn through your MP pretty fast this way, or not pay enough attention to your HP dropping. Take it slow and steady. This is a turn-based strategy game after all. This also goes for the grinding spots too. You may want to try fighting enemies in the next area, because they drop more experience. Experience points make you level up quicker just in case. But if you're not careful, you're going to get your arse handed to you. Grind in an area until you feel strong enough to move on. When all the enemies feel incredibly manageable, you're probably in a good place to move on to the next area or take on a boss. And don't pass up on the metal slimes. You might not always get them, but when you do, you're in for a nice surprise. If you see your MP is getting low while grinding, play it safe. Go back to an inn, rest up, replenish your HP and MP, go save at a church. It's just a pain to have to go all the way back if you die mid-battle. And also, use the banks. I'm assuming this is going to be in the Dragon Quest III remake, but it applies to all Dragon Quest games. Banks protect your gold in case you die, because when you die in a Dragon Quest game, you lose half your gold, and that is so frustrating. It's good practice to lump all your gold into a bank or spend it all on weapons and armor before you take on a boss, just to be safe. And lastly, plan your escape route. If you're grinding in a dungeon or finish beating a boss at the end of one and find yourself with low HP or no MP, have a plan to get back to safety. If someone in your party has a spell called evac or zoom, you'll be able to fly home safely, provided you have enough MP for it. But to be safe, it's a good idea to have an item called a chimera wing or an evacu bell on you handy, just in case you run out of MP or your zoomer dies and you have no way home. So those are my top tips in combat for all Dragon Quest games, but hopefully they'll apply very well to the remake of Dragon Quest III, which is out when you're watching this. Above all else, gaming is fun. Play it how you want to play it. If you're familiar with turn-based RPGs, a lot of what I said today will probably sound like common knowledge. But I think these basics are a very good foundation to go off for anyone new to the world of Dragon Quest or turn-based RPGs. If you are new to Dragon Quest, you are in for such a treat. I've been playing these games for a long time, and these games mean so much to me. They are such fun adventures that will never let you down. They'll always leave you smiling. And they're not that serious, and I love that about them. My entire channel is Dragon Quest focused. So if you like Dragon Quest or you're thinking of getting into the franchise, consider subscribing. I'm not that annoying. Mostly. You can also follow me on Twitch, where I'm doing a challenge run of Dragon Quest XI on the hardest difficulty. No armor, no accessories, all the enemies are harder, you get less XP, and many other parameters that make it a very hard time, but I'm managing okay so far. But for now, my name's Gronya, and I like Dragon Quest.